Wow. Just thinking about this movie makes me recall when I had just finished it, walking out of the cinema with a smile and just utterly speechless. Just after listening to that last music score in the ending scene filled me up with a great load of satisfaction and overall pleasure. This is Batman. This was definitely the Batman that I had wanted, at least. My expectations were not met, but disgustingly blown out of the water by the jaw-dropping performances, amazing soundtrack, engaging plot, and wow, just otherworldly cinematography. I remember watching the DC fandom back in 2020 being amazed by this new style Batman had approached for a live action film. Not talking about how dark it was though, we've all been through what kind of dark live action Batman could give us, both the good and the bad. But now this style, a more detective kind of approach, was what I had wanted for a Batman movie for a while now. Being a huge fan of comics such as The Long Halloween and Hush, which are really big in the mystery aspect of a Batman story, had made me fall in love with this new movie real fast, that had actually taken inspiration from both of these comics. I won't really say how now, as I'ma try and keep it as spoiler free as possible for the start of the video, but of course, I'll get into the spoiler territory later in the video. But the plot of the movie does well at creating a compelling crime mystery that seems fit for the world's greatest detective. Now the plot was something else. It grabbed me, pulled me, and made me feel obliged to take part in the investigation, as well as the Riddler had my brain pumping with the riddles he pulled out. And just to let you know, I didn't get any of them. This truly was the most Batman movie that feels like Batman. It had everything that a Batman movie could have. The mystery, the corrupted and disgusting world of Gotham, and man, can I tell you that this Gotham City was twisted. It also had a great cast of characters, especially Selina Kyle, who is Catwoman. Her relationship with Batman in the film felt nice, and each of their conversations fit really well in the movie. And of course, we have the villains. They were all too interesting to watch. The Riddler, the big man of the movie, was incredible. He had me on the edge of my seat each time a video of him came up on the screen. He was literally unnerving. I'd known Riddler as pretty much a goofy guy from past iterations of his character, but man, this movie did not shy away from how much of an impact his background had caused to change him into who he is now. You could put him in a Saw movie and he'd fit. Bro is insane, and the actor is even more insane at bringing this character to life in the most perfect way this kind of Batman movie could portray him. This nigga literally had jigsaw traps. You really can't say he wasn't intimidating with the mask on. He was such an intriguing villain for the movie. I wouldn't mind seeing him brought up again, as I'd love to uncover more about his character in this new Batman universe. This take of Riddler was definitely great to see, and if you'd only mostly seen Riddler as the goofy and annoying type, this movie does great at portraying him in a different light. I love both versions of Riddlers, and the way this one is put to work won't disappoint you. Though, don't go in looking forward to a Heath Ledger Joker, because I'm sure most people are already comparing the two for some reason. But go in fresh looking forward to seeing another amazing Batman villain done well in a live action film. Also, another thing that I might want to talk about, please, just don't bother comparing this to The Dark Knight. It just doesn't make any sense. It's literally the first movie for this new Batman. I've seen a majority of fans doing this, which just makes me confused. You could definitely say which you like better, but according to how the stories are and where Batman is at in his career, the best movie you could compare this to is, well, Batman Begins. Now for me, I think this movie destroys Batman Begins, even though Begins was a really good film. The way this Batman is utilized just hit way more. Now, I think it's time for me to just go straight into spoiler territory, so I can just give a few thoughts on why this Batman is quite literally the most perfect one for me. So the whole detective aspect was what did it for me, as I had said at the start of the video. I love how it was used in matching Batman with not just the Riddler but the whole unhinged city of Gotham. Finding out the corrupted leads of the city that the Riddler is trying to take out, who exactly is the rat the Riddler talks about, and why he's so important that someone would literally die rather than reveal him. It's intense and keeps you focused on everything in the film. You blink one time and you're lost in the story. It just grabbed me into this whole detective plot because I love Batman detective plots. Long Halloween is quite literally my favorite Batman storyline of all time. It's a story about a series of murders taking place on different holidays of the year, and yeah, you guessed it started on Halloween. The murder victims also all had relations with the leading people of Gotham City. Batman works with both Jim Gordon and Harvey Dent to solve this case. Yeah, and also, this story shows us the downfall of Harvey and his transformation into Two-Face as well, which was amazing to read and literally one of my favorite Two-Face stories of all time. This story also isn't just about these holiday murders and Two-Face, but also shows us Gotham City's most powerful families going at it in a crime war as well, the Falcones and Maroni. You're probably wondering why I'm telling you about the Long Halloween all of a sudden. Well, not only am I trying to get you onto this comic if you haven't read it already, but also I'm explaining that this detective story connects really well with this new Batman movie. Quite like the Long Halloween, we follow a series of murders presented by the Riddler, and the victims are the corrupt leaders of Gotham. But these murders are for different reasons. Riddler plans to get rid of these people he deems unworthy to rule the city and finally take out the newly elected mayor whilst afterward flooding the city. He's a man who wants to cleanse the city of corruptness and saw Batman as an ally, but obviously their actions to get rid of the grim things of Gotham are different. Batman saves, Riddler destroys. Long Halloween also has Carmine Falcone, who was a major character in this movie. We see him as the Rat, one of the biggest aspects of the film. In the comic, he's a crime lord having he and his family hunted by the holiday killer. And also, just like the movie, he is said to be the father of Selina as well. Though it wasn't fully confirmed in the comics, as Selina had only believed that he was her father, but in the movie universe, Falcone is her father, so that's a small difference from the comic. The way these detective plots are executed is of course different, but you can really see where the Batman movie took some ideas from that helped mold it. Now in the film, there are a lot of little pieces that Bruce has to place together to make his way to the end goal, which is, of course, stopping Riddler. And these pieces only create more intriguing paths. Like at that one point in the movie, he's with Gordon trying to follow another cryptic clue Riddler has given them, but whilst doing so, Bruce is pulled into a whole new narrative that is filled with twists, which was the result of him trying to follow that one path that was put out for him by the villain. The truth about the Waynes and also the build-up of Riddler's actual identity. I know that the truth about the Waynes didn't really matter afterward, as we get a whole conversation with Falcone telling us that that truth is entirely wrong, but still the impact of that whole subplot was what really took me in. It gives us a whole new struggle that enhances Bruce's character, both internal and external, that latches onto both his alter ego and his outside self. We see him develop in this movie, and the way it's executed doesn't feel rushed in any way. It feels so satisfying when you get to the payoff at the end, as there's that really emotional sequence of him making up his mind on what this city and his role of Batman means to him. Will he always be angry, filled with scars and looking for vengeance, or will he become a symbol of hope and create a path of light for Gotham? The quote that comes at the end of the movie lives rent-free in my head. It just fully sums up what the impact of his journey in this movie had led him to believe now. You know what? Let me just say the quote. It's an amazing quote. Quote, "Vengeance won't change the past, mine or anyone else's. I have to become more. People need hope, to know someone's out there for them. This city is angry, scarred, like me. Our scars can destroy us, even after the physical wounds have healed. But if we can survive them, they can transform us. They can give us the power to endure and the strength to fight." End quote. His struggle with finding himself and purpose throughout this story is what brings his character to be so compelling in the film. His dynamic with Riddler causes him to find a surprising answer to that, with him realizing who he should be, which is Batman, his true self, a symbol of hope, not just fear, a symbol of courage, not just dread. He needs to become a man who's strong enough to fight for the whole city, not just fighting for his own personal vengeance. He needs to fight for the whole entire city. The entire sequence of him leading and helping people out of the flood is probably my favorite sequence in the movie. It just screams who Batman really is, becoming one of the darkness, yet leading people out of it. It's filled with pure emotions, and Robert Pattinson's performance truly enhances it, and with the looks that he gives, it shows us what he believes in. He doesn't just need to tell us. In the movie, most of the time Batman shows and doesn't tell. His looks towards the boy that parallels his past, His easiness with Selina and his godlike presence whenever he walks into a room with just everyday cops just shows that this actor knows how to bring Batman out without even having to say a word. He creates a whole story without opening his mouth. It's amazing, and I love how everything about this feels so real. This film is truly the perfect Batman movie for me. It combines the detective element of his character, his struggles of becoming who he is in Gotham, his relationships with the many important figures of the city, and insane atmosphere together to create what could only be said to be a comic book movie masterpiece. I'd probably say this goes in my top 5 comic book movies of all time already, probably even top 3. It's just that good. I can't wait for the sequel if we're getting it, but all I'm saying, if we do, please don't bring this clown back. We've seen him too much already. We need more villains, like, I don't know, Court of Owls.